Would the world be a better place if everyone was immortal? Hey guys, I'm Shulman. I like to think about these things because apparently I don't have anything better to do with my time. But this is a topic that I've actually talked about with a lot of people because one of my stated goals is I want to live as long as humanly possible because I think life is just a lot of fun and I want to experience as much as possible. But the knee-jerk reaction of a lot of people when I say that is, oh, Shoma, if everyone did that, the world would be doomed, the world would be dead, the world would be decimated, it would be an awful, horrible, no good place to live. And I think there's a lot of merit to that. I actually think that there is a possibility that that is the outcome if everyone were to suddenly gain immortality. However, I also think that they are potentially wrong, and after thinking about it for a fair bit of time, I came up with a single factor that I think would determine whether or not the world would be a good place or a bad place if everybody was immortal. So let's get into that. But before we do, if you do enjoy this type of content, do hit that subscribe button, do hit that bell notification. I don't think a lot of people on YouTube are talking about the things that I want to be talking about, and so this is a very good opportunity for you to get in at the ground floor, or however many subscribers I have at the time of you watching this video. And if this video has made you think, please hit that like button because that would show me that you guys are actually engaging with this content and that I should be making more of these videos. And so before we can actually get into whether or not the world would be better or worse, let's actually define the world so that we know what we're working with. In this case, what I'm proposing is a single pill that's readily available for everyone that essentially reverses aging and makes everyone live in essentially their 30s. So whenever you take this pill, you essentially get your genetics reverted to when you are 30. Now, this is actually not too far-fetched. Now, if you've read the book Lifespan, for instance, then you know that this is actually not that much of a science fiction. And though this isn't something that's strictly available just yet, it may be something that will be available for us in the future. So, in the future, this video might be extremely relevant, so listen up. Now, the thing about being in your 30s is if you look around, you see people in their 30s that are in their prime, that are just killing it in life, that you envy, that you want to become, and you also see people in their 30s that are just meh. Now, I'm not trying to shame anyone, but there is a very clear dichotomy between people that really take care of themselves and people that really strive to be their best self and people that do not. And by the time you hit your 30s, this starts to become more apparent. Now, the reason I actually mention this is just to put a little bit of a limitation on this actual pill. For instance, if you cut your arm off, it's not gonna grow back. If you continually eat junk food, you're not gonna suddenly become super healthy. You're just gonna be what you are in your 30s. And so you kind of are forced to do a single thing. And that is a good segue into talking about the number one, best, most important thing that I think would determine whether or not the world would be a better or a worse place if everyone suddenly had this pill and was able to become immortal. And that one single thing is whether or not people think 2, 3, 4, 5 steps ahead. It's essentially whether or not people think ahead in time and base their actions on their best outcome in the future. So essentially, people that don't give in to instant gratification. And I think this is the main dichotomy of whether or not the world would be a better or a worse place. So then now let's explore the downsides of not thinking long term and actually living for a long time, using the analogy of this piece of candy. Now, this is called a salon sucre. It's one of my all-time favorites, and unfortunately, it's only available in the wintertime, which is probably a good thing because I would probably eat those things all day long, all year round if I had the chance. So thankfully, they're only available during Christmas. Now, why am I talking about this chocolate? For one, I just wanted to say salon sucre in a YouTube video, but the main point is let's say I eat this chocolate. What would happen to me then? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I would feel good because it tastes good. And other than that, literally there would be no downside. But what happens if I ate two? Again, realistically, I might get a little bit of a sugar rush, but other than that, nothing would happen. Now, what happens if I ate five? Now, what happens if I ate five every day for a week? Now, what happens if I ate five every day for a year? That is long-term thinking. Because eating this right now would have zero consequences to me in the long run. But continuously making these bad choices and eating candy and doing things that you know you shouldn't be doing, in the long run, it compiles. And it compiles more and more and more as time goes on, because eating 5 a day for a week really will not have too much of an effect on me. I might start to feel it a little bit because I probably will be getting a couple of sugar crashes, but otherwise it will not be affecting me too much. However, when this is then compiled into a year, all of a sudden I am starting to really feel it. I'm starting to feel fatigued because I'm eating too much candy. I'm starting to feel all of the negative consequences of it. And this can be extrapolated into basically everything. Any bad habit that you have right now, imagine if you had that bad habit for the next 100 years. What would the world look like if everyone did all of their bad habits for an extended period of time? Our saving grace is that we die not having lived a fairly long time in the grand scheme of things. And so no matter how bad of a things that you do and we do as a collective, we then get wiped away and essentially we get a fresh slate when it comes to our children. However, if we continued with all these bad habits, then yes, I do agree the world would not be a very good place, because we'd continuously choose the easier option and the instant gratification and not think very long term about it, because though it doesn't affect us if we do it one time, if we do it one time every day for 100 years, all of a sudden that really compounds. Now imagine that compound effect with 1 million people, with 1 billion people, with everyone on this planet. We'd reach carrying capacity of the planet very, very quickly because we just have children willy-nilly without really thinking about the long-term consequences of it. We'd probably burn through all of the environment because we just want more and more and more without really thinking about kind of the long-term implications of what happens if I continue to take and take and take without giving. Our society would probably crumble because you'd eventually dislike everyone, because in the long term, if all we're thinking of is me, 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 then all of a sudden we would just make enemies with everyone. Because if we're selfish, we're probably not going to be able to be friends with someone for an extended period of time. And that's all well and good because, you know, we die at 80, but all of a sudden, if we live to 180, well, we'd make a lot more enemies, and we'd eventually be a lot more bitter, and it would ultimately not be a very good life to live. But let's actually stop all of the doom and gloom, because I'm getting sad about it. Because though this might be a potential reality, I actually think that this is the less likely option. I actually think that if we were offered the immortality pill, we would be more likely to make the more selfless options, because I think it would expand our world. And I think that it would expand our world because what if the life you had, I'm gonna say in 2019 just because of the C word that's going on right now, what if your life in 2019 is what you had to do for the next 100 years? I'm gonna let that sink in. What if what you did in 2019 is what you had to do for the next 100 years? That means whatever job you did, that's the job you have for 100 years. Whatever friends you have, those are the friends that you have for the next 100 years. The activities that you did, the hobbies that you have, those are the things you would have to do for the next 100 years. And most importantly of them all, what if your level of happiness in 2019 is the level of happiness that you would have for the next 100 years. How would you have changed 2019 so that whatever that year is like is what you had to do for the next 100 years? And I think that is kind of the main point, is that when you suddenly give people the ability to live for a very, very long time, that means they're going to be able to work for a very, very long time. That means they're going to have to do all of the things that they're currently doing for the long run. I think it would force people to think even just a little bit, because even just thinking, I could do this for another 20 years, but I don't know about 100, because I more or less hate what I'm doing right now. How would I feel doing that for the next 100 years? And I think that would ultimately be a huge benefit to society, because all of a sudden that would make us reevaluate, maybe I should recycle more. Maybe I should go to the gym more. Maybe I should take a little better care of my health, because this is a body that I'll have to be in for the next 100 years. And if I really frick it up, well, all of a sudden, that's not going to be fun in 20 years. And I think those are conversations that we would start to have, simply because, well, all of a sudden, if you live for a very long time, you're going to have to take care of yourself so that you live for a very long time. If you don't like your friends right now, and your friends aren't really the best that they can be, well, would you want to be with them for another 100 years? Probably not. And so you probably go out and kind of find those better friends. What about your level of happiness? Are you happy right now? Are you happy with what's currently going on? Are you content with life? Well, what if you had to, whatever you're feeling right now as you're watching this video, is the feeling that you have to feel for the next 100 years? Will you not take a little bit of time and kind of work on raising that base level of happiness, your happiness set point that psychologists like to call it? Would that not be something that you would really like to do? Would you not all of a sudden start to care a little bit more about your fellow human beings simply because you just have to live with them for a very long time? And if you make an enemy, you might make that enemy for the next 100 years. Now, I'm using 100 years because it's fun to say 100 years, but let's say 100, 200, 300, 1,000 years. In the long run, whatever life you have right now, you probably would want a better one. You probably want to take up accordion classes because you've always wanted to play the accordion. You probably will want to take up, some sort of an art hobby or something, whatever it is that would make you happy that, you've been holding back on because, I just have to complete this job for the next 20 years and then I'm free and I can go explore all these things. But no, you kind of have to stay at that job for the next foreseeable future. And because of that, well, you all of a sudden have to make it so that your life in the present moment, right now, is good. Not in the future, not in 20 years, not when you get your bonus, right now. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why I think that the world would be much better if people lived for a much longer time. Maybe not forever, but if we suddenly expanded our lifespan and our health span and the amount of time that you had to work by a considerable amount, I think that would overall make the world a much better and a much happier place, simply because all of a sudden you had to start thinking about those things. You had to start thinking, do I want to keep doing this for the next 100 years, 200 years, 300 years? But I really want to know what you guys think. Is there some other topic that you want me to cover? Do you agree with what I said about this video? Do you disagree with something that I said in this video? Let me know in the comments down below and I will be sure to get to it, because your feedback is very important to me, because not only does it make me smarter, it makes these videos a lot better. And so if you enjoyed these videos, don't forget to leave a comment, don't forget to smash that like button, don't forget to subscribe, because there will be a lot more of these coming for you in the very near future. On screen right now, you have a couple options of videos that I think are great for you to watch if you want to continue thinking in the long term. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.